ready to start?
Yeah, we already did. This is all going on the podcast.
The intro, Ben.
I'm editing this week. This is all going in.
You're editing this week?
Hell no, I got way too much to do.
Welcome to Way Too Broad, a place for friends to talk about things that make them sound crazy. I'm Hannah, and these are my co-hosts, Erin and Ben. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Hannah. Hey, Ben. Hey, Hannah and Ben.
Hello.
Hi. I didn't say
Hello.
hi to you yet.
Don't say hi to us, Ben. We didn't say hi to you.
Do you know that
You did,
it's
actually.
like
Erin
really
did say
bad
hi to me.
podcast etiquette to talk before you've been spoken to, Ben?
Erin said hi, Ben.
I did say
She spoke directly to me.
Erin's not the introducer of people.
I don't have the authority to say hi to you.
I couldn't give less of a fuck.
Do you guys notice how I could give a fuck and I couldn't give a fuck mean the same
I hate
thing?
it.
Which one is it?
It's so it's ridiculous. I couldn't,
ridiculous.
like,
It's
people say I could care
It's like-
less, and it's stupid because like that means you have room to care less
Give a
about it.
fuck.
When what you
That's
mean to be
right.
saying
Yes,
is I couldn't
okay.
care less.
Also, when people say I'm just talking out loud, it makes me want to commit murder-suicide.
What other kind of talking would you do? Here's a recent thing. A recent thing I have been doing is when somebody just says something like to console you, but they just say something, like, oh, it might not happen, but it might. It probably will. I'll say, those are just words you're saying. And for most people, it's effective. But my dad, particularly, is like, that's what I do. I say words. Like, that's how I talk.
Those are just words you're saying.
Yeah. It's like anything that Donald Trump says, you could say. Those are just words that you're saying.
Did you just say Jonald?
I might have. Maybe I fucking did. I could give a fuck. Or couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You couldn't,
I couldn't give a fuck.
even if you tried.
Right.
Okay, there's only one rule on Way Too Broad.
Oh Jesus!
No, we got in way earlier this
That's
week.
true.
I think we're
That's true.
improving.
We're doing great. It was like a solid 30 minutes as last time.
And you have to be excited about the thing that you're talking about. And Erin couldn't be more excited about what she just had
Or
for
she
dinner.
could.
Well, what I just made for dinner.
And also ate, hopefully.
And also ate. I did eat it. Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you a story. So, Molly and I have our fish delivery DiGiorno. If you recall. Was that on podcast?
Fish DiGiorno, yeah.
Fish DiGiorno. The delivery that we pick up. And we've been doing this for some years now. And in the winter seasons, like we are now, we get clams a lot. Or
Clams.
not a lot, but every once in a while. And so Molly would always make this delicious clam chowder that had cream in it. It was so good. It had like a lot of white wine and it had cream in it. And it was like the most delicious thing you've ever eaten. But she can't eat dairy now, and so is avoiding dairy. So we got clams, and I was like, oh, I wish there were a clam chowder that didn't have cream. Oh, wait, there's a whole nother type of clam chowder. So I made a Manhattan clam chowder tonight. It was delicious.
I thought you said there was butter in
Yeah,
it.
I did put butter in it. Just a little bit. Well, here's what happened. So Molly came home and she's like, and I was telling her that I had me fry bacon and butter. She's like, did you use margarine? And I was like, look, I see you eating little bits of dairy here and there. For the most part, she avoids it, but she I saw her eat a brownie the other day. And I was like, I saw that and I was like, by God, next time a recipe calls for butter, I'm going to use some fucking Kerrygold. All right? Just let me have a pat of butter to saute an onion in. Please,
Kerrygold
Jesus.
is some good ass butter.
That's right. And the recipe,
butter?
the
Damn right.
recipe called for unsalted butter. And my wife can't do dairy. And I'm like, fuck everyone, I'm using Kerrygold. And it's salted. That's how I feel about that.
Figured that out from the context.
Well, I'm done this story now.
You have to say the end.
The end. Fin.
I'm wondering if anybody did anybody's homework this week. I didn't play any Dominion.
Me neither.
No, though I did look up if it's available on Tabletop Simulator on Steam, and it is.
So we should play.
We should play it
together.
You could have just asked me that. I already looked it up a week ago.
Every time I'm about to Google something, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and ask you first. How's that? I'm going to stop like 2 a.m. and call you.
Okay. That's probably the best. For the best.
That's probably the best.
Probably the best.
Same diff, right? Those sayings are basically the same.
Probably, yeah. Right. I also wanted to mention that I started a Facebook group discussion group for our ear snack this week. What are you laughing at?
Just that you couldn't get that out.
It's got 3 members right now.
Guess who they are?
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you want to come talk to us about stuff, I haven't publicized it anywhere.
Except right now. Except at this very moment.
So if you search for Way Too Broad, I think it'll come up on Facebook, and we'll post a link also somewhere. Any other upfront stuff we want to cover? Anything happen to anybody this week?
Anything?
What about all of our segments? We have anomalians. What is it called?
I never remember.
Can there be a segment that's just Erin trying to remember the name of this segment?
Well, I can't remember the name of anything. That's a thing about me, Hannah. You have to love me for who I am. Wait, terminology, and I got it.
Yeah.
She got there.
Or
I don't have any.
Or there's family inside jokes.
We could do Iron Man 2, or we could talk about Brave Combo.
Oh. What do we have to pick one or the other? I feel like we should talk about Brave Combo and save Iron Man 2 for closer to Christmas, because Brave Combo kind of starts now.
Yeah, Brave Combo is eternal.
Yeah.
I don't know this one.
No. It's not an inside joke, but
Yeah. It's more like a tradition.
I'm not a big fan of
Combos.
Or bravery. I hate bravery.
Wimpy combos. What'd you say, Ben?
I hate bravery.
But I'm not a big fan of listening to Christmas music outside of Christmas parties.
Whoa. Okay, stop. I have some questions. How many Christmas parties are you going to?
Not that many.
So you're listening to maybe 5 songs a year.
No, I mean also they
Well,
play in
just
shops
wait.
and stuff. That's the amount of exposure that I tend to have to Christmas music.
Gotcha.
That's how I like it.
Okay.
Except for this one album from 1991 or something called It's Christmas Man by a band called Brave Combo. It's is it Zydeco, Ben?
What? What is that word?
Zydeco?
Zydeco, it's a type of music, Ben.
Oh, I thought they were a polka group.
Zydeco is that kind of music. Yeah, I'm looking up it on Wikipedia. I'm looking up it. Zydeco is a musical genre that evolved in southwest Louisiana by French Creole speakers, which blends blues, rhythm, and blues. I'm just reading it. Blues, rhythm and blues, and music. This is why the Oxford comma is important. Blues, rhythm and blues, and music indigenous to Louisiana Creoles and native people of Louisiana.
That's just definitely not what they are.
All right.
usually fast tempo and dominated by the button or piano accordion and a form of washboard. Zydeco music was originally created at house dances, where families and friends gathered for socializing and listening to 5 Christmas songs.
Okay, I'm going to read you the genres that are listed on Brave Combo's Wikipedia page. Spoiler, one of them is not Zydeco. Latin alternative, polka, world beat, Tex-Mex, salsa, Latin jazz, ska, and dance music.
Accurate.
And they've been an active band since 1979.
Wow.
And still are today.
Holy shit.
I think they might be kind of like locally well known in like Texas.
Yeah, I don't know how
this is the first time I've
I think
looked
it was
at
our
their-
mom.
How did you come to find them?
Our mom's been playing this album since we were wee little babies.
Oh.
I don't know how she found them.
Yeah,
But
I don't know how she found them.
It's such a unique Christmas album. I really love it a lot. They do like
Love it.
so many different versions of songs. A lot of like some of them they do like totally instrumentally that are normally done with lyrics. And they're just like really and different instrumentation. I don't know. I really like them a lot.
They do like a lot of like really like fun, energetic songs, but then they also have these like really beautiful kind of slow songs that they do too.
They also
and
have
like
a Hanukkah song.
they don't tie themselves to like what a Christmas song typically sounds like. Like they're just, and they have like a total sense of humor about it too. Like they're not like all up their own asses about their Christmas album, you know? Just something that I do not like in Christmas music.
Yeah.
Like that not Whitney. Who am I thinking of?
Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
You know, in the vein of Christmas albums though, Sia has one this year called Every Day is Christmas, and it's really good.
I haven't listened to it
Sia's
yet.
a fucking liar.
What?
Only one day is Christmas.
Oh shit. She also has a song on it called Puppies Are Forever, and it's a really good song.
That's also false. But, like, I'm grateful for that, because having a puppy is the most fucking annoying thing you'll ever do in your whole life. It's lovely, but God, it's annoying. I haven't listened to it yet, which is surprising, because I, like, worship everything Sia does.
Yeah, she's great.
So, she's great.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
The video for the single on it's really good too. It's called Santa's Coming for Us, which is a little ominous, but
Ooh.
Also a lie.
I'm not agreeing with you, Hannah, because, I mean, I might have started listening to instrumental Christmas music just a touch before Thanksgiving. Just instrumental. It's like, not even, doesn't count. Just like background, it's just like background music. You're like, oh, do I think I recognize that song?
I don't judge anybody who likes to listen to Christmas music.
Yeah.
It's a totally legitimate thing to do.
It's a cozy feeling.
It's just not for me.
Do you guys get a
That's
Christmas tree?
yes.
Yeah, but we always get it too late. I'm just like, I'm not ready on December 1st to be like, it's Christmas now. Like, I'm just not. I know that's not like a hot take, but like, I'm just not.
You're not ready on December 1st, you said.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of get in the spirit early.
There's a tree farm that Ian's family has gone to for a long time, which is surprising because it's like an hour and a half from their house.
Wow.
But it's closer to ours. It's a lot closer to ours. So we usually will like go together and get
That's fun.
both of our trees at the same time.
Oh, great.
And it's like you go out into fields of trees that are still growing and you pick one and they cut it down for you.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Are you, question to both of you, are you and your partner tree compatible? Do you have a similar opinion on what a Christmas tree should look like and the one that you bring into your home? Or is it more of a discussion and, back and forth?
I'm tree flexible.
I don't think either of us have a strong enough opinion about it to
So you just
have a
you just
disagreement.
grab the first one you see.
Well, we don't have one
Oh.
yet.
Oh.
Are you going to get one?
We've talked about getting like a small one because our apartment's pretty small, but we don't really know where we'd put it.
There's
'cause our
always room
apartment's
for
small.
Christmas.
That's true. Como's also just definitely gonna knock it down at least a couple
right.
times.
You should just get a little one. Just get a little guy.
Yeah, we
Little
hung
guy.
up Christmas lights this morning. They look really nice. We hung up Christmas lights this morning.
That's festive.
Mm-hmm.
We should do that.
We also got Como a stocking. It's really cute. It says I've been a good kitty on it.
We give Henry a stocking. We don't have stockings. We have Santa pants, but we get Henry one too, which has been annoying because we put a bunch of like dog treats and bones in it last year, so it still kind of smells like it. So every time we're like somewhat near the fireplace, he like looks at us expectantly and like looks at his Santa pants and like looks at us, and we're like, "There's nothing in there."
What is Santa pants?
It's like a stocking, but instead it's like pants. They look like Santa jorts with the like leg kind of sewn in. So that's not like a long pant, it's more like a short.
Are they denim?
Huh?
Are they denim?
No, they're made out of like red felt or whatever. But they look like pants. They look like a little pair of pants, and then they hang by their little suspenders. They are the most adorable thing
in
the
cute.
whole world. And we've had them for years, and we love them. And we recently bought more for our future children, just in case they stop making Santa pants. Like last year, we were like, we saw them again, and we were like, let's buy some more. Just in case. Like, we love them. I can't live without them. I will never use a stocking again. It's Santa pants all the way. Molly and I have very similar, like, we are, like, 100% aligned on that. We have the same taste in Christmas trees, which is, like, short and fat. Like, real short, real fat Christmas trees.
I like those too.
Yeah. Like, every year, we go to the lot, and we see usually the same tree at the same time, like almost immediately, and then take that one home. It's like a
movie.
Like a very quick process. We see it, and we're like, that's our tree. And it is.
Beautiful. The tree chooses you.
Yeah. This year, it's really sweet, and it's real fat, and it's got like a lot of like, it looks like it needs a haircut. It's got some bedhead. And the topmost part that you put the star on, what's that called? The star bough?
The apex.
The apex of the tree like leans a lot. It's like very crooked. And when they were like bagging it up for us, they were like, is that okay? And we're like, why do you think we chose it? This is our family now. Of course it's okay.
You don't just leave your family on the lot because their apex is a little crooked.
I've always felt that way.
Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Erin is up first.
All right.
Damn. Well, I will have a short one this week. I was going to maybe do 2 books that I'm reading at the same time, but I'll only do one because I haven't finished the second one, and I'll save it.
Okay.
I just read a book called The Price of Salt that I really liked a lot. And it was written in the 1950s. It's a book about a lesbian romance. It's actually the book that the movie Carol is based off of.
Is that one that you've reviewed?
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on this pod. It's a good one to watch at Christmas time, Carol, and it's on Netflix.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was written in 1952, and she had to publish it under a pseudonym because it was kind of a controversial topic at the time. But it's a really great book, really good romance book, really takes care of you as a reader. Really liked it. Something I really liked about it was the movie Carol is fantastic. I really like that movie a lot. I rate it very highly on my review account and recommend that everyone see it. And it was a fairly major movie. I think it was, it wasn't like an indie film or anything. I think it did pretty well on Rotten Tomatoes as well. I'm trying to see what it got. But an interesting thing about, almost every... It's hard to say because I saw the movie first, and then, I got a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's hard to say because I saw the movie first a few times before I read the book, but the movie is so true to the book, even down to, specific quotes, which I thought was really interesting and something like I feel like I almost never see in movie adaptations. Like several quotes in the movie are like directly from the book. And the timeline is like exactly the same. You know, obviously there's more detail and more events happen in the book, but as far as like, it was pretty stunning how close to the book it was. So for that reason, I really enjoyed watching the movie before I read the book. Like, I thought it really enriched the book for me.
Because you could like directly visualize stuff from
yeah, and the tone was really very similar in the movie to the book, and the characters were like exactly the same. So it was almost like, you know, the movie was so good and did such a good job of really like cultivating feelings and emotions and carrying you through that. And I feel like the book was then almost like a supplement is the wrong word because it was the original and it's the original story, but just like was such a treat to like have a movie I love so much, and I love the soundtrack of the movie, to then have this whole other piece that's like so similar and true to that. Was very enjoyable and such a great read to read by the fireplace with my Santa pants hung with care with the Christmas lights on the tree.
I have a question for you guys.
What's up?
Have you ever had a case where you liked the movie version of something more than the original book?
Oh.
Yes,
I have one.
Princess Bride.
Yes, that's mine also.
Oh,
I tried to read that
book.
I didn't finish it, but it was just like
I couldn't finish it either.
No, I did finish it, but it was hard.
Oh.
I thought I just heard you say you couldn't finish it.
I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly why I didn't like it that much. I think it was because the like, you know how it's an old man reading a story to his grandchild, Fred Savage? That's where you get to Fred Savage. It was like, I think the old man kind of breaks into the story a lot more than he does in the movie.
Maybe. Or he's not there at all. No, you're right.
No, he's there. Because it's told, like, the narrator of the book is the little kid writing it from when he's older. That's what it is. And there's like, this whole plot of him, like, finding the book again when he's older. And not as much
like
about the
3
story.
layers instead of 2.
Yeah, exactly. And it just wasn't as good.
Yeah. You're right.
I have one, I don't know if it counts, but the Sherlock Holmes, I think, for me, like, I've tried reading the books and they're good, but they're just a little more dry. Like the Sherlock series, if I compared it to like the Sherlock series, which is so hard because it's like such a different adaptation.
With Benny Dinn Cramber Band?
Yeah. With the... Oh man, there's a whole website like...
I know, I love it.
Bumberdoodle Christmas Socks or something.
I have one that's the only other one I can think of that's at all similar to the experience you had with Carol and The Price of Salt, because it's so rare, I think, to like have the movie actually be true to the book at all. And in this case, I did read the book first and then I saw the movie, but the movie Holes was actually like extremely close.
Hannah, I had the same experience when I was watching the movie Holes. We might have seen it together.
Maybe.
I feel like I was like, this is exactly how it was in my head.
Right. It's like how I pictured it. Like and the tone, like it was so perfect.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I continue to maintain that somewhere deep down in there, Shia LaBeouf is a good actor and like a funny person.
I mean, did you see Even Stevens?
Yes, and I loved him in that.
He was
and then
great
he was great
in
in Holes.
And his sister was awful.
His sister? Oh, yeah,
Even
Ren.
Stevens.
Ren?
Yeah, Ren.
She's a
That's not his real
musician.
sister.
She's
Is
got
she?
some interesting music. Not interesting, it's good music. She's a musician now. She makes
Because
music
I
now.
didn't think she was a great actor.
She's a musician.
She has music in her.
She does music now.
I have an opposite experience. Like, usually it's pretty predictable, which is why I then ask this question. I don't want to shock you guys, but usually, like, the book is better than the movie, right?
What are you talking about?
But I have one especially egregious example of that too. That I still, it makes me feel sadness and hate in my heart. Ella Enchanted.
Girl, I did not even fuck with that movie. I was like, you're not taking that away from me.
Oh my god. Okay. Ella Enchanted is one of my favorite books ever, despite being a young adult book.
It's a great book.
It's such a great book, and it made me cry so much. Every time I read it, it makes me cry. I wonder if I still have a copy around.
Have you read it in a while? I'm worried that it doesn't hold. You know?
I mean, at this point, I feel like the association is so strong for me. It's like the same as like Ben and I were talking before we started recording. We were wondering like
where the fuck I was.
Yeah. we were also wondering what if Brave Combo is actually like just pretty average, but we just have all these associations and that's what makes it good. I don't really think that's true in that particular case, but like there are certain things that I could become aware that they're like not as good as I remember, and I still would just love them and enjoy reading them or listening to them or whatever. And Ella Enchanted is definitely one of those things. Cool. But it's like, I think it's pretty sappy, but I'm still into that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very into that, so.
You know what's another particularly egregious example of the movie being really bad and just not doing the book justice?
What?
The series of Unfortunate Events movie, the Jim Carrey one from like the early 2000s. It was
a series of movies, wasn't it?
No, it was just one, but it combined the first 3 books into like a super condensed version, and the timeline was all wrong, and like everything was just awful. Terrible. About it. It like wasn't even close to the books, and I love those books. Like me and Lucas were really into those, and we got like the all like the supplementary books that have like little hidden secrets about like who people are, and you know, there were a lot of like running mysteries throughout that series, and we spent like a lot of time with those, so we were really excited about that movie, and then we were just like super disappointed with it.
Why do I have an image in my head of Neil Patrick Harris as
because they just released a Netflix series like this year.
Yeah, it was good, right? I think I liked it.
I was apprehensive because of my previous experience with the movie.
You didn't watch it?
Burned too many times.
I think it's better.
I've heard it's good. I have heard it's good.
Yeah, I didn't like those books at all.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was just because there was like hopeless, all of them. You know?
Yeah, it was really sad.
Yeah, and I was like,
thing.
I can't do that. Like, I can't. It's like they spoiled it. They're like, nothing good happens, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done here.
That's fine. That's what that warning's for. I mean, like,
fucking sue me. I like a happy ending. I do. It can be like a fucked up happy ending, but I like a happy ending. I don't want to go through all of this work for fucking nothing. Okay? I'm not.
Yeah, sometimes they filled me with sadness, but they're very funny.
And it was endearing. These like 3 siblings going through a bunch of stuff together. They were always really close.
Oh, did it make you think of us, Ben?
Nope.
Well, that was a great segment, Erin.
Thanks.
The Price of Salt.
The Price of Salt. Good book.
Okay.
I will say, on the topic of like movies not being as good as their books, I think if I hear that a movie version of a book I love has been made and it's not good, I just like won't watch it at all. Like, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is one of my very favorite books, and I like refuse to watch that movie. You know, or like many little independent movies have been made off of like the Sarah Waters books that I love, and I won't watch them. I won't do it.
That's fair.
Yeah. Cool. The end. How's that? Were you waiting?
I guess I was thinking about what you said just now, because I watched the Ella Enchanted movie because I want, like, there's something to me there, like, I don't always want to give my money to it, but there's something valuable to me in, like, even just seeing the portrayals of the characters, because even if the movie as a whole is bad, or like they destroy the plot, which all of those things are true of Ella Enchanted, the movie, They made it into a musical. Like it made.
Hannah's so fucking
I
done
could
with
go
this whole
on.
I'm
franchise.
so mad. There was like a. Anyway,
I just don't want to fill my head with it. I don't want to accidentally like replace any of the good associations. I don't want to read the book again and like see those people.
But like there can still be like a really good makeup job on a character that you have always had trouble imagining,
That's true.
or something where you're like, oh, you know what? That's perfect. That's exactly what I pictured. And then like now you have that like I don't know. I've never had it ruin anything for me.
That's a really fucking good point. I really appreciate that perspective. You're totally right. You're totally right.
Thank you.
It's like, I don't know. It adds a bit of salt sometimes.
What's
But
the price of salt?
of that salt? That's where the name comes from the book. It's like her
That
romance
sentence?
with this woman is like adding
Salty?
salt to her life, but what's the price? Which they don't outright say, they just kind of mention it in a like, for what, a little salt? And I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I prefer books and movies that say their name somewhere in them. If I get to the end.
How cheesy would it be if it was like, what's the price of this salt?
And then you're always like, you did it!
One of my favorite Mystery Science Theater 3000s is I Accuse My Parents.
Oh my god.
One of my
that's so
favorite
good.
things they do right at the beginning of that is when the main character, like, within the first minute says, I accuse my parents, and they all go, hey, we have a title.
It's so funny. Ian never wants to watch that one. It's one of my favorites,
I
too.
love it. I love it so much.
It's so
Especially because
good.
it starts with the thing about tractors.
So sorry.
Oh, no. Someone...
Ding
Is it a
ding!
friend? That's what Matt says every time he gets a text. He says, is it a friend?
It was my wife, so she'll be listening to this podcast, and that's the text you sent me, dear.
Thanks a lot, Molly. You ruined our podcast.
Well, I was the one who put my phone on not vibrate. What's it called? What's it called? Noise?
Silent?
Bing? I put my phone on Bing.
On Ding.
Oh my
Bing
God.
is copyrighted.
I put my phone on Ding. Although I don't say I put my phone on.
Right. So it's a conundrum. Ben, you're up next.
All right. Mine's a book.
Another book.
It's a nonfiction book.
Hey.
It's a history specifically, which I normally don't care about or read.
Oh, wow.
I've never read a history book before.
That
You've
seems
never-
up your alley, though.
Huh?
That seems up your alley.
Yeah, I think I'm going to read more after reading this one. I've really enjoyed it.
Not to presume like I know your alley,
Get
but
the fuck out of my alley. It's specifically about... It's called The Basque History of the World.
Basque, like
By-
Basque.
Yep, by Mark Kurlansky, who is most famous for writing Salt and also Cod, two other nonfiction books about salt and about cod. As you might guess.
were you telling me about this?
I was, yeah. I've been interested in Basques
Yes, I
for a
was.
long time. The Basque people are people that live like in the southwest corner of. They're on the border of France, like a border of France and Spain, the southwest corner of France, the northwest corner of Spain, and they're just super interesting because they're a language isolate, so which means that their language isn't related to any other language on Earth, despite
Crazy.
being surrounded by Romance languages and like in the middle of Europe, and they also like this book starts with like mentions by Roman historians while like Caesar was campaigning through Gaul about these people, and they it seems like they always mention that they've seemingly been there forever, so they've probably been there for like thousands of years. And
That's crazy.
yeah, and then it goes like right up to modern day. Like they're still there speaking the same language
And it's not seemingly related to any other language. Is that
Yeah,
what you
it's
said?
not related to anything else. The closest the closest thing that people theorize is related to for all is Hungarian, because they're both agglutinating languages, which is a
What?
fucking shitty word.
That sounds like a bready type of thing.
Yeah, I actually have an gluten allergy.
It just means that it's like a limited vocabulary in a language, and they create new meaning in words by like adding a bunch of endings onto them.
Oh,
So they just like
German
build
do
up.
That too?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think it's technically an agglutinating language. I don't know. German's weird. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're just like, they're such a fascinating people with like a very rich history, and have been involved in like a lot of major European history events, but like kind of tangentially, because their focus is always like maintaining their culture and their society and their language. So like they get involved as much as they need to in like the way things are, to like with monarchies, they'll agree to not revolt as long as they get to go by their ancient laws and have some kind of autonomy. And they kind of strike this balance until Francisco Franco took over Spain in the 30s. And it's really interesting because like the part I'm at now is about up to the 60s, and it's really interesting to see how Francisco Franco kind of he stayed in power in Spain for so long, kind of by being incredibly ineffectual as a leader. Because like the rest of the world after he wanted to ally with Hitler during World War II, but Hitler didn't think that he was useful at all, so he like refused to let him be an ally. So Spain ended up being neutral, which means that they didn't get occupied by the Allies after the war. And then, but they were still a fascist country. And then, when the Cold War started, like right after World War II, he was always vehemently anti-communist, so he like kind of switched over to the Allies side and ended up getting support from the U.S. And all of this just was like the perfect storm to like fucking the Basque people over, because he consistently like oppressed them and wanted to basically get rid of them.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a very well written book because it's like a mix of kind of history like that, like a bunch of interesting factual events, but then also like little anecdotes about like specific Basque people who like did impressive things, or just like interesting stories, like about how there was a problem with the Basque land, I guess is the name of like what they call their area, was like plagued by witch trials during the Inquisition. And there's this one story of like a woman who came back to her hometown after living away from it for a few years, and said that while she was away she was practicing witchcraft, and she accused this one other woman, and it basically set off this chain of events where people just kept accusing other people to try and get themselves out of trouble, and it ended up that like thousands of people in this province within a year were under trial for being witches, and like hundreds of people were burned as witches because of this one woman coming back.
Oh jeez.
And then like even until the mid 20th century, a bunch of Basque writers, when they talked about this, didn't talk about like why there was this mass hysteria against witchcraft, and instead tried to figure out why so many people were practicing witchcraft. It's just fascinating how it's like an insular society that just communicates as much as it needs to and interacts as much as it needs to preserve itself. It's really, really cool.
Do you think it is is it somewhat of a coincidence of just like starting your culture with a core tradition and belief that like you need to, preserve the structure you have as much as possible? Like I feel like some like cultures just started out more concerned with that than others, or like some cultures concern themselves with getting more, like conquering people and getting more land, and some of them wanted to learn as much as they could, and like this one was just like, we need to, like, we've got it the way we want it and we need to keep it that way.
Yeah, he goes into that a little bit, like trying to figure out why they have preserved for so long and why that's such a focus for them. And
Right.
like part of it is because there's some evidence to suggest that the reason they stayed preserved so well, like during the Roman Empire, because they were one of the only Roman occupied places that wasn't forced to speak Latin, is because their land isn't that good. It just happens to have like some convenient border crossings between France and Spain, but other than that, it's not very good farmland in particular. And there's the main industry they had in the 20th century was like steel work, because they had iron deposits, but that was like really it. So there's evidence to suggest that ancient Basques might have tried to expand but got pushed back into this area, and then kind of no one wanted to take it anymore. So they just are stuck in this small area because that's where they got pushed back to in ancient times. But there's also like...
They're just like, we want to be here. We love it.
They like doubled down.
Yeah, they really did.
It was like pride.
Because like after that, it was extremely rare for any Basque province to try and like expand. They
We weren't
basically
going anywhere.
focused
You
all of their
weren't.
efforts.
I wasn't.
They focused like all their efforts on just not losing any more land or getting invaded.
They're like that friend who like tries something once, and then it's like, it's a hopeless cause. I'm not doing that again.
That's
That's
cool.
really interesting. They bask in the
enjoying
glow of their culture. I'm so
His
sorry.
book about salt is here also really interesting. I don't think I've actually read it, but it
Who's
was the
the
first
author?
thing I thought of.
I know our mom has read it and she really likes it.
Yeah. It's Mark Kurlansky. And it was the first thing I thought of when you talked about your book, Erin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, same actually.
Because they have the same word in the name. Man, Ben, you must really be procrastinating on your schoolwork if you're reading a nonfiction history book. That's some really intense procrastination.
It's so true. I've had it for so long too. Like I bought it when I was at Trident like 6 months ago because I've always been interested in Basque people. But then like I didn't read it for a while, and then I started to read it instead of doing stuff.
I said this when we weren't recording, but every time that I have a productive day or do something that's like edifying, I stop and think, what am I putting off? And it's always something.
It's
how I
always
feel.
something.
It's always something. Well, good segment, Ben. I like to check out one fiction and one nonfiction book from the library, and I'm almost done my nonfiction. And I'm done.
You should read this one next.
Yeah.
Great job utilizing your library.
Thanks.
Now that you've
I
paid
don't
your fine.
like not owning my books though.
It's a little rough because I like to dog-ear my pages, and I don't dog-ear my library books.
I've been doing that lately. I never used to do that with books, but then when I started reading Island, there were like some pages where there were really interesting quotes that I wanted to look at later, and so I like dog-eared, like I have bookmarks, but like I dog-eared because stuff that I want to go back to later, and I did it with this book too, the Basque book.
I can't
I
do
never
a
used to do
bookmark
that.
because I'll chew on it.
Chew
I'm
on it?
reading.
Interesting.
That's an interesting problem.
Yeah. Also, it can fall out.
Yeah, and then you're fucked.
You're fucked.
And then you're relied. You can't. Dog-ear can't fall out.
What
It
do you
can't,
mean
and if
fall
it
out?
does, there's
Just
still a
shove it-
record that it was there.
Yeah.
Just shove it in the back of the book.
No, it
doesn't
can
fall
fall
out.
out when it's trying to mark your page.
Oh, I've never
You
had
move
that
your
happen.
book around, your
Well,
bookmark
aren't
falls
you
out.
special? You're gonna have that happen.
That's
this week.
probably because you keep your books moist, Ben.
And you're gonna
Always.
spend hours looking for your place in your book, and you're like, if only I dog-eared.
Yeah.
I like to dog-ear. Can I, before we move on to the next one, can I tell a quick? I have a,
As
I
long
have
as
a
it's
quick.
quick.
Funny. So that ding of a text message we heard was Molly texting me, asking me if we were expecting a package of bath things, not Basque things. She's like, I got this package and I can't read any of the words on it because it feels like it's a special language from Spain and France, from a certain region of Spain and France. Okay, I took that joke on too long. So we had this package of mysterious bath things addressed to Erin and Molly Brown, And it's sweet. It's a Christmas present from your parents.
Oh.
It's so sweet. And I said, who is it from? And Molly said, in quotes, Uncle Norb and Aunt Brown. I haven't looked at them yet, but I would like to thank Uncle Norb and Aunt Brown for this. That is a truly thoughtful Christmas gift. I'm sure Aunt Brown thought of that 100%.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
So I read that text, Ben, during your thing, and I was like...
Uncle Norb and Aunt Brown.
So
It just
good.
ran out of space. That's funny.
Thanks, Uncle Norb, not Brown.
Okay. Are you ready to learn what mine is?
Oh, I've been waiting.
I could wait.
You could, but you won't have to.
Oh boy.
Mine, okay, I'm gonna
Holy
do that.
shit.
What is it?
What the fuck is it?
I'm gonna do that thing I do where I explain to you how I got to this.
Okay.
Doing that thing you do.
Yeah. So
Every time you turn around.
So I've been shut up. Okay, so I've been listening to this podcast sometimes, this ear snack called Real Life Sci-Fi, and it's these two guys and they interview a third person and talk about usually conspiracy theory stuff. Ian hates it because one of them is a total I believe everything man, doesn't really believe that facts are real and stuff kind of guy, and then his friend is a skeptic, and so you get both
into
perspectives.
that.
Huh?
I'm not into that already.
Well, it's fine. You don't have to be, but they were talking to this guy who grew up as a Quaker, and they were asking him, especially the one guy that I was talking about, was asking him a bunch of dumb questions about it, oh man, I always thought that was a cult, asking him questions as if he grew up in a cult, and talking about the Quaker Oats man and all that kind of stuff. But this guy, he explained what Quakerism actually is to them, and I was like, oh man, that's really cool. And then later on, I was watching Turn. Do you guys watch Turn?
No.
Nope.
Oh, you should. It's really good. Maybe
Okay.
I'll do that next week. But it's about Washington's spies in the revolution, in the Civil War, in the
Oh.
Revolutionary War, not the Civil War, in the Revolutionary War. I started to say it right, and then I said it wrong.
The Revolutionary War.
Yeah. And one of the main characters, actually a couple of them are Quakers, and it's just interesting because you can see the social dynamics and also how he's kind of different from the people of his time, and Quakers have a really interesting history in America because my topic is Quakers.
Wasn't Benjamin Franklin a Quaker?
Yeah, I thought it
don't
was.
know. I don't think
I'm gonna look it up.
so. Okay, you look
Carry
that
on.
up.
I've been to a couple Quaker meetings before.
Have you? So
Yeah.
has Ian.
Oh, cool.
Where you
Here's the
sit in
thing.
silence for an hour.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't really think I would like that. So, but I get the concept. When I was reading about it, I want to talk about the history, but I want to kind of first talk about what Quakers are today. So there are some really super cool things about Quakers, and what they've kind of always believed about people. And there's some things that really resonate with my outlook on the world, but they just kind of take a more religious angle on it than I do. Basically, so they don't really believe in explaining their, or putting a lot of rules to their belief system. So it's really hard for Quakers to explain what they believe because it's kind of at the core of their belief system that like everybody should have their own relationship with God. Usually they say with God, but like you're not like shunned if you believe that it's something different. Like they believe that all people have the light of God in them, and so they all like it's everybody's own. Everybody has their own ability to find like their truth and their like spiritual truth. So like the Bible is not, it's like it's a useful text, like it's got things to teach you. They read it, but it's not scripture in the same way. It's not like, you know, the word of God. Like God is kind of like in you instead, and he can still like speak to you if you give him like kind of the space to do that. And that's why they have these silent meetings, is to like just allow like God's presence to come and speak to each of them individually. Another kind of core belief is that because everybody has the light of God in them, everybody is equal. So that means men and women, different people of different races. Like they were the first like religious group to speak out against slavery in that era. They don't believe that there's like, they don't really believe in like holy days. Like they usually like they meet on Sundays because it's convenient, but they don't think it's any holier than any other days, and they don't really celebrate like holidays in a religious way any differently from any other day. Because basically they think like your whole life and everything that you do should be like in worship and in like with the same moral compass that you would apply if it was like some holy day. Like you always are the same person with the same amount of like God in you, and so is every other person. So they really strive to treat everybody with like respect and consideration, and that includes like thinking about the consequences of their decisions. So
can I
like,
drop some irony in here right now?
Huh?
Can I drop some irony in here?
Sure.
Benjamin Franklin was not a Quaker, but Richard Nixon was.
Oh.
What?
Which is really funny given everything you just said about treating every day as a holy day and morality, and think the consequences of your decisions.
Probably a lapsed Quaker, although it's not like being Amish where you get shunned. Like I'm sure he still could go to meetings, but like
I'm sure the Quakers don't like claim him as their like Quaker.
Yeah,
right.
probably
you
not.
know who
Was Benjamin Franklin not a Quaker?
No, I think the reason we probably thought that is because he looks like the guy in the Quaker Oats package.
Yeah, I think so. I do think so.
I feel ashamed.
Same.
I feel ashamed.
But I'm right there with you.
But Bonnie Raitt also is a Quaker apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. She's cool. We saw her live this year and it was great.
Really?
She was amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. But yeah, so like I think it's really cool that like it seems like there's a real, like from the inception of this particular kind of branch of religion, there's been a real focus on like things that I would call like basically humanism. Like I consider myself a humanist, and that's like kind of like my version of like the light of God is in every single person. Like I believe that everybody like has something to teach you if you're like willing to kind of like be receptive to it, and that's like
everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yes.
Move your feet and feel united. Everybody.
Are you really asking?
Yeah, what does Donald Trump have to teach you? What does Donald Trump have to teach you?
How to deal with having a leader that you don't agree with, like any number of coping mechanisms.
Oh, okay, so it's not like he has some wisdom in him
That's not
to
him
no.
teaching you anything.
So it's like
That's learning lessons like from his existence.
Right.
Guess.
So if he didn't
All right.
exist, my
All
life
right,
would be
fair
different.
enough.
Like every person you
Be
talk
better.
to, and I can't hear you, Ben.
It'd be better.
Every
it's because you're talking over him. You're like
he's interrupting me.
and you're like, I can't hear you. I'm gonna start doing that. That's gonna be my new power move. I'm gonna start talking over somebody and be like, I can't hear you.
I'm
Those
sorry,
are
I
just
didn't mean to interrupt.
words you're saying. And I can't hear them.
So that's, I would classify that a little differently. I like that sentiment, but like everybody has something to teach you. That's like if somebody annoys you, but you stop and listen to what they have to say, they have some truth in them that they can impart on you. That's how I feel about everybody has something to teach you. Not like everybody's existence sets some sort of example or something like that. But maybe both.
I mean, I think probably if you like really sat down and talked to Donald Trump for a couple of hours, that you could probably learn some things.
I'm
not
positive you couldn't.
I promise you could. You could learn some things about mental illness. Like you could they're like
About dentures.
I really believe that. Like I'm not trying to be defensive, but like, and I also I'm not saying that I would do that.
Right.
Really? Like, but like, I do believe that. But I also, like, when I say you can learn something from everybody, I do more intend it to mean, like, even somebody who you find to be, like, so difficult is teaching you how to deal with people who are so difficult.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And also, I find a lot of, like, profoundness in the fact that, like, every conversation you ever have and every person you ever meet, like, changes something about your life. Like something is different or could be different in the future because you've met this person or like brushed up against this person.
Yeah. I love thinking about that, like after that has happened, like just like those interactions before you knew that your whole life was about to change. Like my first interactions with Molly, just like I love thinking about that, like in the context of like our life together, you know?
Well, yeah. Ian was telling me the other day that one of the girls that he went on a date with before he met me was a coworker of my mom's at her last job.
Whoa.
And he didn't like realize it till much later, obviously, because he hadn't met me when, you know, but like there's every chance that we could have never met if he had like continued to see that girl. Like we could have never met, but he could have met my mother.
Right. Wow.
Like at like a party or something. Like it's crazy. And also, like, the whole personal relationship, like, learning directly from God and stuff is actually, like, a very Protestant thing. Like, it's, like, similar to what we learned in growing up Presbyterian. But it's, like, so much... It's taken us so much more of an extreme where, like, they don't have preachers. They don't have, like, really any kind of, like, hierarchy of any kind. You know, as you know better than me, because I haven't ever been to a meeting.
They just sit in a room in silence for an hour.
Yeah.
Great. Sometimes people talk, though, but...
I think it's very interesting that you consider... I guess you were more raised Presbyterian than I was.
I was, yeah.
Because we do have that 7-year gap, and we didn't really go to church much past, like, when I was, like, 8 or 9.
When we moved.
Yeah, well, we went to that church that was down the road for, like, a year or so, but we didn't really stay there.
Yeah. I have a much more, I was much more religious than Ben was when I was growing up.
I knew you then.
Yeah.
I've known you every point. It's kind of pointless. I'm going to stop saying that. Oh, yeah, I knew you back then. Like, yeah, I knew you.
Yeah, you've always known me, yeah. But,
yeah, I know you.
But I'm not religious at all anymore. But I still, like, you know, I think it's interesting. I like to hear about people's beliefs.
Does something like Quakerism appeal to you in a way that you think that you might be interested in kind of, like, looking into it? Or is it more, like, an interesting, like, just, like, knowledge thing for you?
I think if I was to want to start attending a church again, I think my first choice would probably be Unitarian Universalist, and my second choice would probably be Quakerism. I think it's like, it's a little bit intense for me, and I was watching this interview. John, do you guys know who John Ronson is?
Nope.
Really? Do you know the book The Psychopath Test?
Oh, I have heard of that.
Well, he wrote it. He's got a crazy weird voice. He was on This American Life a lot. And he used to have a show in England, I guess, when he was much younger and had a lot more hair, about like just about like controversial like things, and he would like interview people who were like, and Quakers actually were persecuted at the beginning of their sort of time as being a religion or whatever. So he had on some like modern day Quakers to like dispel some myths and rumors and whatever, and they all spoke like very slowly and softly, and they asked to start the show with like a period of silence, and I was just like, oh my god, I would lose my fucking mind. Like it was so funny watching like, you know, just this guy who is like trying to have a show, like trying to figure out what to do with his face while he's surrounded by all these Quakers who are just like sitting in their silence and just like in their comfort zone, and they all have their eyes closed and their heads down, and he's just like looking around, and eventually he's just like, so like, starts asking them questions.
Hannah, did you know that half of Alex's family is Quaker?
I didn't.
Erin, my best friend Alex from childhood and to this day, half his family is Quaker, and the other half are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh wow! And now for something
wild?
completely different.
And did you read anything about Quaker funerals?
No, Ian's been to a Quaker wedding, but let me just finish talking about the things that Quakers
She
are cool
has
about.
a spreadsheet. Let her read
Do you have a
it.
spreadsheet?
It's a Google Doc. But Quakers have. I told you that they're way into like men and women being equals. They were pioneers in the movement for female equality, like including suffrage and stuff like that. They don't wear clothes with, or at least for a long time, they didn't wear clothes that had like that were like colored, that had dyes, because there was a good chance that those clothes were dyed by slave labor.
Wow.
And they've been like, they are non-judgmental about sex, which they see as a gift from God. Their attention is focused on the way in which it is used in human relationships. So like there are some quotes that I pulled that I thought were cool from a book that was published in 1963 called Towards a Quaker View of Sex, which is apparently pretty influential for them. The first one is, sexual activity is essentially neither good nor evil.
That was a Freudian slip if I've ever heard one. Hannah Brown, everybody.
So sue me. Okay. Sexual activity is essentially neither good nor evil. It is a normal biological activity which, like most other human activities, can be indulged in destructively or creatively.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
And then the other one was about homosexuality. It says, an act which, for example, expresses true affection between two individuals and gives pleasure to them both does not seem to us to be sinful by reason alone of the fact that it is homosexual.
How progressive.
Yeah, wow.
They've just like been like on their shit
Sensical.
for like so many more years than everybody else.
So sensical.
Yeah. Although I do hear that they applied some kind of strange methods in the early colonial days of protest, like walking around naked or like in sacks.
Sounds
and like
dope.
messing their hair all up and putting ashes on their face for reasons that I can't figure out.
They're like, we're protesting, bitch.
We look fucking
Everybody's
weird,
like,
dude.
What does it mean? And they're like, that's right, protest.
But they were like, it was
Fucking got
illegal
you.
to like have a Quaker meeting in Boston, like in colonial times. Like you
Wow.
couldn't just like go sit in a room silently for an hour, which is you could like if
How
they
would
caught
they
you
know?
doing that, you could be arrested.
That's
crazy.
hilarious.
Yeah.
What
it's
if you
wild.
just have like a party where everyone's sleepy?
just have a not great party and you get arrested? Ben, what were you gonna say before I stopped you from interrupting me?
Alex's uncle or grandpa died a couple years ago, and he went to a Quaker funeral for him, and he said it was like the best funeral he's ever been to, which is like, but there's like no organization to it. They
Yeah.
just like all sit in a room together and then just like take turns going up and talking about like what the person that died and like the effect they had on them and stuff.
Ah.
And it's basically just like a memorial kind of, but that's like the whole thing.
They sit in a circle.
I think so, yeah.
That's basically what a Quaker wedding is too, apparently. Like except nobody just died probably. But there's like, but like you start in silence. Oh God, there's like nobody running shit, and then in whatever order feels right, the bride and the groom will get up and like say their vows to each other, and then there's like more silence and everybody kind of and Ian talks about this wedding all the time because apparently it was outside and there were like cherry blossoms like trees, and they were like they're like purple petals were falling everywhere. And
that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a Quaker house in Durham, downtown Durham. That's the one I've been to a couple times, and it's a beautiful room. It's a big room, and it's got a big sunlight,
one of those definitely.
It's got a big roof window, and the chairs are all in circles. So it's a very well lit room, like a lot of sunlight, very beautiful, very calm and serene. It's not like weird silence. It's like peaceful silence.
And it reminded me of the Bored and Brilliant thing, too. Like, I think that, like, regardless of what you think about whether it's God or not, like, I think that there is a lot of validity. I mean, and meditation. Like, there's a lot of validity to just, like, sitting in silence and being with yourself and your thoughts. Or, like, not thinking anything in particular.
Hard. It's hard. I'm a bad, like,
me too.
person to be with my own thoughts. I just, like,
You're
not very inspiring.
Yeah, I could stop there.
Yeah, me too. I
can't
really
hear you. Good segment, Hannah.
Thank you. I think they're cool. Oh, and just for the record, they call themselves well, I mean, like, Quaker started out as a derogatory term, but now it's not. But they call themselves Friends. They call themselves the Religious Society of Friends.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah. I know. It's very sweet. Like, they're just, like, they're so wholesome, and they've just been on their shit for a long time.
They've been on their shit for a long time.
It's very rare that I hear that much about a religion and don't, like, dislike something about it.
I know. And, like, I listened to it was, like, 45 minutes of this guy explaining growing up Quaker, and it was, like, the first time I've ever heard anyone go on a podcast and, like, defend the religion they grew up in and then say they still go to it sometimes.
Quakers, Friends, been on our shit for a long time. Yeah.
So, that's mine. The end.
Good one.
Yeah. 2 books and a religion is what we covered today.
That's right, bitch.
We're getting intellectual on your ass.
That's right.
Surprise!
Homework.
Last week we talked about baking and games.
Yeah.
This week it's back to intellectual shit.
And anime. Let's
Homework. My homework is to watch Carol, the movie, and then read The Price of Salt, the book.
Oh. All right.
Cool.
Oh, my Twitter is @ErinByrne, lesbian movie reviews, @lesbian movie reviews on Instagram. Finally put one up after a long hiatus.
Yay!
Nice.
Check it out.
Do you have to say the @ for Instagram? I'm never sure.
I don't even say it for my Twitter.
Oh, aren't you cool? What's your homework,
Which is
Ben?
insane of me.
Mr. Cool
My
Guy.
homework?
Well, I would like to defend myself. I wasn't saying like @lesbian movie reviews, but it's like on Instagram @the page lesbian movie reviews.
I'm not. You don't have to defend
You
yourself.
weren't being
I'm
attacked.
genuinely asking.
Hannah, I was just saying where it was. Just saying how you get there.
My homework is to read the Basque History of the World, or Mark Kurlansky's other books, Salt and Cod, and I think he has others too. I'm probably going to read them at some point because they sound interesting and I really like his writing. He's very good at making things that I think have a potential of being boring into really interesting books. So,
Did he write the one about Zero too?
I think he did.
Yeah, that's like his thing.
That sounds like something he did. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure though. Also, my Twitter is any disco Greg. Not any twice. I didn't mean to say it twice.
It's
just
any disco Greg.
@NE disco Greg. I should change it soon. But I post a picture or video of my cat every single day, including one the other day of him getting into his stocking for the first time. It was very cute. He got his head stuck in it.
Okay.
Spoilers.
My homework is, if you think you can stand that guy that I talked about, you should listen to, I'll put a link to the episode of the podcast that I first talked about, because he does a really good job talking about like what modern day Quakerism looks like. And then I will also post a link to a BBC article that I read, which is where I got a lot of the history stuff. And also there are like a ton of podcasts by Quakers about Quakerism. I dipped my toe in some of them.
That's
and
cool.
They are pretty well done. So
Didn't you dip your ear in some of them?
my toe is in my ear. So yes.
Oh, what?
I dipped my lube in a few
Wait,
of them.
guys, it's Mark Kurlansky's birthday today.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Mark!
That's wild.
So that's my homework, and also I need to I told myself, because this tweet didn't work out, that I was gonna say this on Snack. I posted like, you know, when you spend a lot of time working on a thing and then you lose it and you're like, well, I guess I'm not gonna fucking do that again. So like
Basque.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, so I tried to go out of my comfort zone and tweet about sexual harassment in politics and have a take on it. And then it when it was posting, the internet went out where I was. And when I turned the Wi-Fi off and like refreshed everything, it was just like gone into the ether forever.
Oh, no.
So, barring so maybe Twitter silenced me, but I don't think so. But but what I wanted to say was like, so you guys know that Al Franken stepped down or resigned today.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And like one of the things that he said, and a lot of people say when they get accused of things, is like, well, I remember that situation differently. Right.
No shit you do.
Right. Well, like, here's the thing that I wanted to say is that, like, everybody remembers everything differently. Memory is fallible. It's impacted by, like, the feelings that you had at that time, the impressions that you got, and the things that you've thought about that situation since then. Like, actually, the more you think about a thing, the less accurate your memory of it gets. Like, you go fucking listen to Radiolab. Like, I'm not talking out of my ass, okay? So, like, so the thing that sticks with you is the feeling, especially if it's an unpleasant feeling. And if you have made someone uncomfortable enough that years later they remember you as a predator, then you need to get your shit together and apologize.
Yes.
Yep.
Also, like, people
Very
on Twitter
well said.
are applauding him for, like, stepping down and showing leadership.
No,
I'm like,
it took him
fuck,
weeks.
no.
The
If
fuck
you
is that?
behave like an animal and then behave like a human, I'm not going to praise you for it.
Yeah.
And he's still, even today, like the speech he gave today, he said that. He was like, some of these things are not true. Some of them I remember very differently. Like, they just need to stop saying that. Because it's like, nobody, like, why do you think they don't, like eyewitness testimony anymore? Because memory, it fucking sucks. Like,
Memory fucking sucks.
but feelings, like, bad feelings stick with you.
Right. Yep.
So,
I'm glad
that's
we're
a
all
very
on the
good
same
point.
page about this.
that's basically what I wrote in my tweet, and then it went away. So, Erin, I just sent you a surprise. Oh wait, hang on. Let me say my Twitter is at Anthropology. If you want, you know, if Twitter ever.
That's not her Twitter. Her Twitter handle is not anthropology. If you want,
If you want, if Twitter...
If you want mostly retweets and sometimes I try to be political, but I am silenced, then join me on Twitter.
you just went 100% cold turkey on your normal Twitter spiel.
Oh.
You were just like, you've gone from like 100 to 0. You're like, anthropology, but hold on, let me like explain this whole thing. And then you're like, it's anthropology. Like, fucking get over it.
Just find me. Don't at me, but find me and follow me.
And at me if you want to get in contact.
Yeah, you can at me if you want. Erin, I sent you a surprise to your Gmail.
Oh, here it is. Should I read it?
Yeah.
Great, so this is a listener email. I haven't read this yet.
Oh, good.
So the subject is way too touchy-feely, but these are the feels I feel, and I gotta be real with the feels that I feel.
Wow.
This is from our dear cousin Rachel. Hi, peeps. Long-time listener here. Big fan. You know this. I tell you about once a week, and it's still true. Smiley face. I've been trying to figure out if I like your podcast because I know and love you all as your cousin, or if I like it because it's legit good. After 14 episodes, I have come to my final verdict. I like your podcast because it's legit good.
Hey, we did it!
We did it. It's structured just enough, but not so much that it becomes rigid or stuffy. It practically oozes excitement and authenticity. It supplies me with a constant stream of new things to try, watch, read, etc., and it's extremely entertaining. While listening, I'm regularly brought to laughing out loud, which can be awkward at the grocery store and other public places. But you know what? YOLO. And I'm always happier after listening. I do admit I also like it partly because I know and love you all, but for the reasons stated above, I feel quite confident that our family ties aren't the main driving force. I think you've created something very fun and real here, something which fits so well to your personalities and your interests, and that authenticity really shines through and is truly compelling. I hope that more people continue to find Way Too Broad and enjoy it, and I'm so excited to listen along as the ear-snacking adventure unfolds for you. I'm not sure if you'll want to read this on your snack, since it's basically reading a glowing review about yourselves, then one of those faces with the tongue sticking out and a little wink. And because no matter what I say, my opinion remains heavily biased. But, oh well, that's not the point. The point is you guys are doing a great job. Love you all, your cousin, and your faithful Team Zombie correspondent, even though the goats did almost win me over. Rachel. Oh, thank you, Rachel. We
great.
love you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. We love you.
That is so sweet. I've been referring to a coworker asked about our podcast. She had listened to maybe the second episode and recently was like, "Are you still doing your podcast?" And I was like, "Yep, we just recorded episode 15. It's the podcast everybody didn't think would or should have 15 episodes." Well, fuck y'all. We now have, what's this, 17?
No, this is 15.
Oh, this is 15. Well,
But-
Rachel was like 16 after 14 episodes, right? Okay.
You silly. Well, I like our podcast too.
Me too.
Same.
I have another listener email
Oh, great.
from Dad/Uncle Norb.
Uncle Brown.
Yeah, Uncle Brown. He actually emailed us, so we've made progress. So all that
Hey.
healing we did at Thanksgiving.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome
Look,
back.
we're reading your freaking email.
Quit whining about it.
Are you happy now?
Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. So, hi gang, good snack today, although I'd suggest that maybe Hannah shouldn't get drunk while recording the episode, but you're
Oh
grown
my.
up, so do what you want. I checked with him. It wasn't because he thought I sounded drunk. I continue to think I sound pretty drunk at the end of the episode, but he saw my tweet about it. So, also, just for the record, I didn't ask for Ian to make me a drink. He just, did that spontaneously because he thought I sounded bummed about not having one. So, it's not my fault.
That's so freaking sweet.
Yeah, he's
Also,
sweet.
you can drink during your podcast.
I know. It's,
I kind of like it because I don't remember recording it as well, and so it's kind of fun to listen to. Because I'm like, what happened this week?
I totally would have this week, but we only have beer that I don't like, so.
Not that I'm blackout. I just don't. My memory's not as sharp about it. I
Yeah.
can't remember all the details. I'm like, I remember we laughed, but I don't remember about what.
I'm probably not the person you expected to hear about menstrual synchrony from, but it just so happens that I recently heard a radio story about it, though I can't remember which show it was. Too much public radio, and I can't find it on the interwebs. But I bring it up for two reasons. Erin, you are correct. It's not really a thing. And here's where I take issue with this email. He says, and Hannah, you are incorrect. It was not theorized by a man.
It wasn't. I actually knew that when I said it.
I didn't say that. Erin said that.
I said that.
Okay.
And I admit I knew that it wasn't a man. I just was taking some artistic license.
You
Got
man.
the
And
war on
didn't
men never
expect to be
stops.
called on it.
Well, it's interesting. He has a little explanation of it, so I'm going to read that to edify our listeners, to fix the damage you did, Erin. It's called the McClintock effect, and it was first put forward by one Martha McClintock in a paper she published in Nature in the 70s. Not like out in Nature, like in the magazine Nature.
She typed up a paper. She got some copies, and then she drove to the forest and
Just threw it. She got home and she was like, "It's official. I'm published."
climbed up a tree and just spread the papers all around the forest.
Oh man. She was involved as an undergrad. She was involved as an undergrad in some of the early research about pheromones, and this notion was such a tidy fit with what was being learned about the animal world that even though her original study was small, 135 women in a dorm, her results were less than compelling. Her subjects' periods moved an average of 2 days closer to their roommates in the course of the study, which I think was a school year, and no one has been able to duplicate her results.
Did he write that twice? Once with periods between each word?
I just really slurred it, so I thought I'd go back.
Able to duplicate these results.
The idea caught on, and it's gained the status of quasi-respectable urban myth. Here's a pretty good story in The Guardian about it, which we'll tweet out. Wish I could find the radio show. Take care, Dad/Uncle Norb/Uncle Brown. P.S. It doesn't say that. That would be crazy if you already knew.
Well, it would have been... Anyway, it would have been proof that they did that on purpose.
Yeah, that's right. P.S. McClintock was interviewed on that show, and she still believes it. Science be damned.
Well, that's going around, isn't it?
Oh, no. You made it sad. That's okay. So then if you want to send us an email about anything we said that might have been intentionally or accidentally incorrect, you can email us at waytoobroad@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at toobroadpod, TOO broadpod, like a pod of narwhals. And if you enjoyed the show today or ever before, you can leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you like to review podcasts, ear snacks.
But iTunes, hopefully.
Yeah, iTunes is best, for us right now.
Or you could type it on a piece of paper and go throw it into nature.
Publish it into nature. So, thanks for having us in your ears.
Have a snack.
Over.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Love you, narwhals.
Love you, narwhals.
Bye.